Hi everyone, this is William with the Grand Duke Dmitri Diary series. We're in 1915 today, and the last video was in 1939, and Dmitri was, telling some real whoppers. So if you're interested in that, then yeah, you can watch that about his, specifically about his military service at the end of the war and after the revolution. Okay, so, and in 1915 we'd had a night at the theater, which he will be referring to. So our cast today, we have Peryaslavtsev and his wife, who have a connection to the theater world. We have Johnson and Cook, who are Dmitri's buddies, and Ella, and Ella's sister. We'll talk about which one of Ella's sister. And then we have Natasha Brasova. So let's get to it. It is the 25th of January / 7th February 1915. We're in Moscow, room number 2 at the Metropole Hotel, and it's 9 degrees below freezing, but clear and sunny. So that's a record for coldness for the 1915 diaries. 9 degrees below freezing. Yeah, that's the coldest it's been so far. And here we go. I got up around 10 o'clock and took a good bath. My mood after the play yesterday was surprising, a bit sad and a bit strange. Around 11:30, I went to the Morozov Clinic for cancer patients. I wanted to visit Peryaslavtsev. I found him in bad shape. He's gotten frightfully emaciated. He was phenomenally excited by my arrival. His wife was also there. She cried. The poor fellow is not long for this world. I lunched with Johnson and Cook at the Metropole. Around 2 o'clock, I went to see Auntie. We had an interesting talk. She asked me to pray for her sister, who's going through a difficult time. Around 5 o'clock, I went home and stopped by to see Brasova. She was there with some girlfriend of hers. She was very sweet, but couldn't talk much. I dined with Johnson at the Metropole at 7 o'clock, after which I went to the ballet. They were giving Le Rêve, Love is Fast, and the Dance of the Peoples. It's remarkable. Okay, sorry, I blew that. The Dance of the Peoples is what he's writing about. It's remarkable, something terribly new and amazing. Was that good? I don't know. I saw Plesheyev there. I had supper with Johnson at home, then went peacefully to bed. Okay, he's quite happy today. He's in Moscow. He's having a grand time, and yet there's this reference to feeling sad and strange when he got up that morning. Yeah, we've got a little bit of our poet friend here today. The bath isn't just a bath; it's a good bath. And when he goes to bed that night, he's not just going to bed, he's going peacefully to bed. So lots of adjectives and adverbs, a little on the poetic side. The play, yeah, if you recall, it was a play called Sisters Kedrova. Certainly not one that's in the repertoire anymore, possibly in Russia, but I don't think it was ever in the Western repertoire. Huge cast, and one of the actresses was Yelizaveta Tima, who at some point was quite close to Dmitri. And so that's the only thing that makes me wonder when he says that it was kind of, it left him, the whole thing left him with kind of a sad and strange feeling. Is it because of her? I don't know. I mean, he will be writing about her in 1917, but at the moment he doesn't mention her by name. So, was it the content of the play? I don't know, but it's funny, it made him feel sad and strange. Okay, we'll just have to take it at that, I guess. I'll leave it at that, I should say. Okay, then he's off to the cancer clinic, which was a very kind thing for him to do. I mean, a scary place to go, right? Some people would just find any way they could to avoid it. But he goes to see Fyodor Andreevich Peryaslavtsev and his wife, Serafima. And Fyodor Andreevich was a colonel in Dmitri's regiment, the Imperial Horse Guards. But by 1909, he had left the regiment, so really just before Dmitri's time. And Yeah, Dmitri, I'm sure, knew him. He would have known almost all the Horse Guards officers, including the former ones, especially one who was the colonel of the regiment. They'd be showing up at, regimental anniversary dinners on the regiment's feast day and that sort of thing. But interestingly, Natasha and Alexandra, my Russian colleagues, told me that in 1909, Fyodor Andreevich became the Polizeimeister, the police chief of the Mikhailovsky Theater, which is in Petrograd. So that's the theater connection. But what the heck? Do theaters usually have police forces with a chief? I don't know. I've got to inquire more about that. Anyway, it's not that important. The poor fellow was 62 years old. His wife is broken up about it, as one can imagine. And yeah, excited. He was phenomenally excited by Dmitri's visit. Well, that sounds a little egotistical on Dmitri's part, doesn't it? But I don't think, I don't think that that's really what he means. And excited. So the word he uses can be negative or positive. It could be that he's phenomenally agitated, but I'm assuming it was a positive thing and he was happy. So let's just say that he had some kind of strong emotional reaction to Dmitri coming to visit him. And his wife cried. I hope Dmitri was able to give both of them some comfort. All right, then he goes to see Aunt Ella, who I'm sure would be proud of him for going to the cancer clinic. And Aunt Ella asks him to pray for her sister, who's having a difficult time. And Alexandra and Natasha think that the sister was the Empress Alexandra, that it was Aunt Alex. But I tend to think, actually, on further consideration, having thought about this, I tend to think that it was Victoria Mountbatten, another of Ella's sisters, Battenberg at that time, and she was indeed at that time having a very difficult time, so I hear, because her husband was considered too German to serve in the British military. I think he was a naval man, so he was given the boot, and they were upset about that. And that's the sort of thing that you would say, oh yeah, pray for her, she's having a hard time with this. It's interesting that Ella would have asked that of Dmitri. He was a genuine Orthodox Christian, but not a very observant one. And he, as we know, at least maybe not at this time, but he would become much, much more interested for a while in more sort of Eastern religions. But yeah, Ella asks him, and he doesn't tell us whether he did it or not, but he does note that she asked him to pray for her sister, so that's rather sweet. Then he stops by to see Brasova. It kind of seems like Brasova is staying at the Metropole Hotel. I mean, that would be the place to stay, like the Ritz in Paris. Yeah, the Metropole in Moscow. And she's there with a girlfriend of hers, and she doesn't really have time to sit down and talk with him. But they will be seeing each other again soon, in fact, the following day. Now, she really is sort of in his sweet spot as far as the kind of women he was attracted to, because she was 11 years older than him, she was brunette, I believe, and she was married. So those are the three most important things, right? Well, it would have helped if she was also an actress and or a ballerina, but yeah, so we will see how that develops, because, yeah, that's coming right up. Then he goes off to the ballet. He sees this French ballet that premiered in 1890, Le Rêve by Léon Gastinel. And then he sees two short ones. One is called Love is Quick, Любовь быстрая, and this is the famous Russian choreographer Gorsky setting this ballet, or one scene ballet or whatever it was, to music by Grieg. And indeed, the ballet is based on Norwegian folklore. And an old friend of Dmitri's pops up here. Well, I shouldn't say old, but you'll remember her from his last trip to Moscow, and it's not Balashova, it's Geltzer, it's Ekaterina, I think, Geltzer, the one that he made out with one evening at the restaurant Prague, but was more talking more about just how interesting their conversation had been. Well, she plays the Norwegian fisherwoman in this ballet, Love is Quick. And then she also appears in the third performance that night, a ballet called The Dance of the Peoples, and that premiered in 1914 and after the war started, so it really was quite new. It was only a few months old, and Dmitri is very excited about it. It's just new and cutting edge and modern, and he was, overall, I would say he was a modernist. He liked things that were modern, and this obviously really appealed to him. And so what it was a ballet. I believe also Gorsky choreographed and put together, that it featured folk dances, I believe, from all of the countries that were allies of Russia in the war. And Geltzer, her part was the spirit of Belgium, quote unquote. And so Natasha and Alexandra sent me this little description. She came on stage in a light tunic with a cloak on her shoulders, her head crowned with a tall golden helmet dedicated to occupied Belgium. So the dance was dedicated to occupied Belgium. And funnily enough, after the revolution, she would remain in Russia, in the Soviet Union, but she would dance this role again, but instead of being the spirit of Belgium, she would be performing as the spirit of the revolution. So I wonder what Dmitri would have thought about that. Anyway, now we come to Pleshev, Alexander Alexeyevich, and he was a writer, a playwright himself, and a theater critic. And so, someone that Dmitri clearly knew. He was 57 years old. He was quite a bit older than Dmitri, but Dmitri kind of preferred older people in general, not just with women. And the fact that he was a theater critic would have been, something very appealing to Dmitri. So he runs into him at this ballet. And what do we have next time? Well, in 1939, we're going to have Dmitri talking about when the Romanovs are back in power. So he wasn't usually given to those kinds of flights of fancy. And in fact, later that year, when he wrote to his sister in September, October 1939, he would be saying, well, that's not going to happen, basically. But here he is with this journalist, Fayard, talking at length on that subject. So quite interesting. And then when we return to 1915, we're going to have another significant conversation with Ella and find out a little bit more about how her relationship with Dmitri is developing and his to her. We're going to have more Brasova. They are going to have their get-together, and Brasova's sister will be there as well. And then, lo and behold, Pleshev turns up again, and he and Dmitri go out carousing, and they pick up some women. So, go figure. A 23-year-old and a 57-year-old out on the prowl in Moscow. So, come back for both of those, and I'll see you then. Bye.